Hey YouTube, this is Brian here. I'm going to be talking about a new type of video on this channel here today. We're going to be talking baseball statistics. This is something called sabermetrics or advanced stats. And today we're going to be talking about a stat called WAR, wins above replacement. Not the kind of war that you might be used to hearing about in today's tumultuous world. It's this is going to be a list of the top 10 people in order of war that never got inducted into the Hall of Fame. This is going to include players who might have been accused of steroids or had a positive test. This will include players from the past. Everybody, pretty much. We're not going to get into controversy here. Though we might discuss some of the reasons why these people have been kept out over the years. Was it, a feud with the media? Was it being mentioned in the Mitchell report, which was this anti-steroid allegation report that came out in the mid-2000s about anabolic steroid use in baseball? Anyways, let's get into this. WAR is a single number stat that is meant to measure how many wins a player was worth to his team when compared to an abstract concept called the replacement player. The aforementioned replacement player is just what it sounds like, a replaceable minor leaguer or free agent signee that took the place of the innings eater originally consumed by the player measured in the WAR. This list is WAR according to a website called Baseballreference.com. And like I said, we're not going to get into steroid use controversy. Some career WAR leaders, such as Barry Bonds or Alex Rodriguez, have been accused in important releases like the Mitchell report or even received positive drug tests. But I don't want to get into all that ethical discussion about who should be kept out and why we should exclude them. Career numbers and accolades are more what we're discussing here, and that's going to be what will get people into the Hall of Fame on this list. WAR is a type of advanced baseball stat called sabermetric stat, which basically means an advanced stat. You don't need to know about advanced stats to get into baseball, but it certainly helps. It helps you get into it in a deeper sense, beyond wins, losses, strikeouts, and home runs, to be able to know about statistics such as on base percentage and wins above replacement. I think those statistics will help you get a deeper understanding of what the game really means, because a lot of those other statistics have a lot of variability in them, which means that things like pitcher wins aren't really the best judge of a player's character and of a player's value to their team. Some of the more complex ones actually can be a little bit better for that. Position that the player plays, it actually matters a lot because like a catcher, their defense is going to matter a little bit more than like a first baseman. First baseman, you might be looking at their home run count a little bit more than you would their catcher, and for a catcher, you might be counting their defense. Conversely, the player is measured against the average production at their position when their WAR is counted. For instance, do the average hitters at the catcher position lag behind other ones? A catcher that can hit, like Buster Posey, I think the Marlins and the Dodgers also have excellent hitting catchers. Players like that can hit at a typically weak position are very valuable, and they're not very common. Another factor is the offense versus defense factor. A home run hitting first baseman is valuable. At the same time, a defensively skilled shortstop like Brandon Crawford, or that guy that the Cubs have, I believe his name is Addison Russell, that's not really very good at hitting, could still be valuable since he's defensively valuable at a position that values defense quite a lot, because shortstop is one of the most important positions defensively. Okay, so we're going to get into the list now, and this is the first list on this channel that's going to be done in order. It's going to be ranked. So we're going to start with the all-time WAR leader of non-Hall of Fame inductees, and that's Barry Bonds. You know, the all-time home run leader, a former Pittsburgh Pirate and San Francisco Giant. He leads non-inductees with 162.8 WAR, and that's fourth all time. Not just among non-inductees, but that's fourth all time, below guys like Babe Ruth, for example, who's number one with like 185, I think. Uh, he's fourth on the list. Period. The reason that he hasn't really gotten inducted, the thing that's kind of keeping Barry Bonds out, if you hadn't guessed already, is that he was named in something called the Mitchell Report, which I also mentioned earlier. The Mitchell Report was basically baseball's big steroid report in the early 2000s to the mid 2000s. There was also another controversy called the biogenesis scandal, which we'll mention later. And that's kind of smeared his good, well, I don't know about his good name, but it's kind of smeared his name. And in spite of all of his impressive accomplishments, Barry Bonds, the all-time home run leader, is not a member of the Hall of Fame. Another player who's kind of got as dominant of numbers, but at the pitcher position, is Roger Clemens. And similar to Barry Bonds, he didn't really have a very friendly personality, to say the least. He was a record 7-time winner of the Cy Young Award, which is the award given to the pitcher of the year, basically, in each league. It's named after one of the most dominant players in the history of baseball, Cy Young, who was a player in the first half, basically the kind of like the turn of the century to like the 1920s and 30s. He had a really long career, but it's named after him, and he won that award 7 times throughout his career. He's second all time amongst non-inductees with 139.6 WAR. He pitched an impressive 4,916 innings across his career for the Red Sox, Yankees, Astros, and the Blue Jays. And in his lone couple of years for the Blue Jays, he was pretty dominant. I think he won 2 Cy Young Awards in his lone 2 seasons there. Kind of like Bonds, he was named in the Mitchell Report, and he had a reputation that had a shadow cast on it, kind of by his unfriendly personality. Alex Rodriguez, one of the most dominant home run hitters throughout history, with 696 career home runs and over 3,000 hits. He had 117 career WAR, one of the highest numbers of all time, period. He spent much of his career with the Mariners and the Yankees. He spent a couple with the Rangers. His numbers were even more impressive due to his position early on in his career, which was shortstop, which was not a very dominant one offensively, typically. Also, he debuted quite young, and he had a long career. A lot of players who debut young, it kind of takes them a long time to figure things out, and they tail off towards the end of their career. But A-Rod, even though he was controversial for his big, long, basically heavy-duty sports contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars, he was controversial for that and for his steroid use, and that's kind of what's kept him out of the Hall of Fame over the years. He also kind of admitted his steroid use after initially lying, so there's no doubt with him. It's just kind of one of the I guess you would say, most essential players when you're looking at people who've used steroids throughout baseball history. He's one of the big time. I hate to use this word, but he's kind of one of the big time cheaters. Up there with Bonds and up there with guys like Roger Clemens. Another guy that we're going to talk about um, is Albert Pujols, the former Cardinals legend, now a member of the Los Angeles Angels. He's the highest ranking active player on this list, or on the overall wins above replacement list. Um, he's currently got 633 home runs right now. He's kind of tailed off in the last couple years since his contract with the Angels began in 2012, but he still has a 100 career WAR, and he's a 10-time All-Star. He's a 3-time NL MVP award winner. He's got 2 World Series championships in St. Louis. He's probably a very likely future Hall of Famer when compared to guys kept out due to the Mitchell report and due to their tumultuous press feuds. Another guy who we're going to talk about, who hasn't been he hasn't had his legacy smeared as much by steroids or press feuds. Another guy with a cleaner reputation is Adrian Beltre, a guy who kind of blossomed later on in his career with the Rangers. He hit for the cycle 3 times. He's one of the most well-rounded third basemen of all time, arguably, and he's probably going to make it into the Hall of Fame. I think he's the all-time foreign-born hits leader and the all-time hits leader from people from the Dominican Republic. That's pretty impressive. There's a lot of great baseball players from the Dominican Republic. He also had great patience and defense, and in addition to all those things, he's won multiple Silver Slugger awards, which is kind of like for the hitter of the year at that position, and Golden Gloves. So he's very well rounded, and he's had a very, very long career. Next up on this list is going to be Mike Mussina, pitcher with 83 career WAR. He spent his career mostly with the Baltimore Orioles before ending it with 7 years with the Yankees. He never won the Cy Young, but he finished within the top 5 voting in 6 different seasons, so he's really consistent. He also won 11 games in an AL record 17 seasons, and his ERA, his earned run average, of 3.68, which is below average. It's better than average. It's often overlooked considering all the powerful hitters that he shared the field with. That must have inflated pitchers' numbers a little bit. I mean, it was even called the steroid era. I mean, I would think that drove his numbers up a little bit, because he had guys like, I mean, think about Bonds' over 700 home runs. Those had to come from somebody, and I would think that probably drove up the pitcher's numbers from that era. And I think that people should consider that and give him a little bit of a break considering the era he played in. And he also played in a lot of very offensive ballparks, such as that of the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Baltimore Orioles. Number 7 is Pete Rose. Now, he's got a 79.7 career WAR. He's MLB's all-time hits leader with 4,256. He also played in MLB record 3,562 games played, and he was a 17-time All-Star and a World Series champion in 1975. He also was a 3-time batting champion. He's been kept out of baseball throughout the course of his life for betting on games as a player manager of the Reds in the early 80s. And they've been pretty consistent on gambling, and they haven't let him back in. We may have to do a part 2 for this video. Number 8 is Curt Schilling, member of the 3,000 Strikeouts Club with the with the best career strikeout to walk ratio of anybody with that many punch outs. He was also dominant in the playoffs throughout his entire career. He even won the MVP awards for the League Championship Series and the World Series MVP award. He was also a three-time World Series champion. Some controversy in recent years due to his conservative public statements and media feuds, arguing with people on Twitter about creationism and stupid stuff like that. He also joined Breitbart, but I think that you know, his control and his ability to strike people out, I think he should get in, even though he's become kind of a jackass in recent years. Much like Bonds and Clemens, his unpleasant personality has kind of held him back. I'm going to make a part two to this since there's only a couple of people left. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. I'm out.